What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Blitz, aka Chris, aka BlitzWizard2745, and I'm going to react to Moist Critical's Palworld drama video. So, geez, you really can't see me. I really need to get another light in here. But, anyhow, like, subscribe, check out the original video, and with that being said, let's get to it.
Unfortunately, the fun police have arrived at my door, sirens blaring, and they're demanding that I give a statement defending my crime of enjoying Palworld. Palworld is a
Mm,
game that's become more popular than Stanley Cups right now, with an absolute explosion onto the scene, selling over 7 million copies in less than a week and reaching a concurrent player count of over 2 million, which is the second highest
Crazy.
peak Steam has ever seen, second only to PUBG, which is a game that was so popular that it was
Ooh.
basically bigger than the Bible for a while. And another thing that really helped with this is the price point. Palworld is under $30. Meanwhile, every Pokemon game, even the older ones like Sword and Shield and Let's Go Pikachu,
Mm-hmm.
are still $60. And
Yep. That pricing, like literally today, I woke up. I was like, my friends were on Power World. I'm like, yo, is Power World on sale right now? And they're like, yeah, 30 minutes left for Power World on sale on Steam. It's $25 on Steam right now. Or you could, I think they said like 25 on Steam, 24 on like CD Keys or something. And then, and then they were like, oh, but you should probably just buy it on Steam in case you really don't end up not liking it. And and granted, I haven't played it yet. I haven't played it yet. I recently just downloaded it and then I got to recording stuff. But it looks so fun and it looks like a game I can grind because while I'm gonna be at uni, I'm gonna need a game to grind while not doing my work or while like after I finish my work or my free time or after I like put up videos and stuff. Cause I might mainly be playing games for like YouTube or something. So that's
yet Palworld offers 20 times the amount of content and 20 times the fun of these modern Game Freak Pokemon games. It's a better deal. If you've been watching any of my streams over the last few days, or even just over the last few days, I've uploaded 3 videos on this bad boy. It's pretty clear this thing makes me smile. I've got some childlike
mm-hmm.
whimsy when it comes to Palworld. It's extremely rare for me to get as invested in a game as I have with Palworld. The game is surprisingly deep. It's more of a survival game that has a Pokemon element to it for creature catching, and I just love the entire
Yep.
package here. It's in early access, so it's expectedly buggy and glitches out the wazoo with so many flaws and so many problems, but it has so many elements in it that are done well enough and haven't really been blended together successfully in the past that it feels unique and really fun. The thing it gets compared
Mm-hmm.
to most besides Pokemon is Ark, and Ark is a game that I found so
Right.
boring that it would probably cure anyone's insomnia if they were exposed to it for more than 15 minutes. It's also non-functional. I tried to play Ark on stream because my friends and I wanted to build up a really nice like crew and eventually raid the devs in the game, but I couldn't even play it on stream because it's so infested with hackers. Anytime I went to a server, a hacker would go in and shut it down and kick us out for 10 minutes. So I couldn't.
Yeah, no. Uh, my friends and I got Arc for free when it was free on Steam. We literally had to go through like hoops to set up our own private like server and stuff, and then we were like, forget it. We can just go on something public. And one of my friends got killed by my other friend, and the dude literally just kept instantly dying, and his game lagged out, and he couldn't log back into the game. Like after that moment, we never touched that game again, and I regretted like everything. And it's crazy because I had to go get DLC too. It's crazy because we decided to get a DLC for it. So like, and like Arc is like actually so fucking unplayable. Like it really is. I think I don't remember. I think Arc 2 is coming out though. If I'm correct. I don't remember.
Even play that fucking thing. And Palworld just works. Like, even when the servers do go down from stress, they're only down for like 5 minutes tops. Whereas in Ark, if you get into a server within 5 minutes, you've just done a speedrun world record. Now, I know I'm kind of gushing
Mm-hmm.
grannies about Palworld right off rip, but I want to make it clear I really like the game. So the drama was quite the head scratcher for me. So let's get into like the actual meat of the subject.
Right.
Palworld is exploding right now, one of the most popular games there is. and there is so much controversy around it with tons of people trying to make anyone that likes it feel bad for liking it, making all kinds
Why?
of arguments against it. And I want to
But
go through
why?
each and every one of these because I find it to be really surprising that this is where we're at right now, and in the beginning of 2024, that we're mad at
Facts.
bootleg Pokemon here for doing what Game Freak refuses to do: innovate.
Facts.
So I've been very vocal about my distaste for Game.
Like seriously, like I know they're Pokemon with turrets or stuff, like, but give one of them a legit gun. Why do you think people like Shine Greymon or Rise, or what was it, Rising War Greymon, whichever one that was from or the War Greymon from not Tamers, Data Squad, bro. Agumon and Data Squad was people's favorites. Why? Because he evolves into Greymon with a fucking Magnum. Bro literally gains dragon wings and a magnum. Great, one of my favorite damn Digivolutions. Other than War Greymon, the regular, other than freaking War Greymon, but that Shine Greymon is one of my favorites, bro. Like seriously, that's why people liked Data Squad Greymon. Bro got a gun.
Freak's work over the last decade and some change. I think Game Freak is the laziest developers in the world. They get the task once every couple years to go in and copy and paste their last Pokemon game with no real effort, and somehow they still fuck it up every time. The
That's
modern
crazy.
Pokemon games have been the same formula. They haven't changed anything. When they've tried with
True.
like Arceus, they didn't really go full hog wild with it. They dipped their toes into a couple of
Mm-hmm.
ideas and then fucking fell flat on it with mediocre execution. They're too afraid and not talented enough
Yeah.
to actually use the Pokemon formula to deliver anything high quality. Multi-billion-dollar franchise, the most fucking lucrative franchise in human history, and the Pokemon games still look like they're made by middle school students as part of some kind of computer science project. It's embarrassing. Like Scarlet and
It's
Violet
crazy.
barely even fucking worked. And now we have Palworld that comes out from
Crazy.
basically an indie studio that does Pokemon so much better. It should be celebrated that Pokemon is finally being realized for the potential of the concept.
Yep.
There is so much you can do with this, and Palworld is showcasing it, which is why it's so popular. So we shouldn't be content just accepting the sewage, the absolute rotten sludge that Game Freak feeds us when it comes to its Pokemon games, because now we've tasted delicacy with Palworld, and it's so far from
That's what happens though. Literally, a studio will see something being done right, and then I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if this was like Game Freak paid for most of this shit to happen. Because when a studio sees something done right by another studio, a dev or the act or this, they'll just start hating on it. This is shit that happened with Elden Ring. They started hating on it because it was done right. Like seriously. When a studio sees something done right, they shut that shit down because like they'll see it done right and then they'll be like, we're not getting money from this. So we'll instead spend the money to shut your shit down. Why? How about instead putting that money towards doing it right or trying to do it better? But no, you'd rather just cuck someone else. A game fam.
perfect, but it's still so much better than anything Game Freak has done recently. It's not even a competition. But anyway, sorry, I keep getting off like on tangents right away, but I'm clearly pretty passionate about this topic. So the first thing people immediately started to target Palworld for is the obvious, that it's extraordinarily derivative of Pokemon even from its designs. There are so many pals in Palworld that are basically a carbon copy of Pokemon just with the color changed. It's actually the meme of copy my homework but don't make it too obvious, you know, and then you get the homework and the only thing that changed is the name on the paper, but it's still the same. Admittedly, that is the case with some of the pals in the game. Not all of them, not even most of them, but a small chunk of them, for sure, are very clearly borrowing many design elements from their Pokemon counterparts. So much so that my
Right.
friends and I often refer to those pals by their Pokemon name, because they're so close.
Right. Like the lamb balls. They're literally like I literally looked at lamb ball and I'm like, is that a fucking Mareep? But it was still very cute and cuddly. So I didn't give a damn.
Now, this has gone a little bit chaotic on Twitter, where people are calling things that don't look similar copies. So a big one was
Oh.
Pin King in Palworld being compared to the penguin counterparts in Pokemon. And these two don't look even remotely similar. They
Um,
just take the concept
that looks, see, this looks a little bit closer to if Mario made the penguin. Like, the penguins in the Mario movie. Yeah, if those things were made a boss in the game, yeah, that's what it looks closer to. This is Pokemon. This is different. This looks like they tried to. This looks like something they would have tried to do later in the game, if anything.
of an emperor penguin and do something silly with it in different ways. This tweet sums it up nicely by saying that this actually showcases Palworld putting effort into changing a design concept
Right.
around and
He's a
making it their
pirate.
own.
That's an
So
that's
it
an
is a
emperor.
legitimate criticism to dislike how derivative some of the designs are and how it clearly borrows maybe too closely to quite a few of them. But it got out of control with people just saying that for every PAL in the game when it's just absolutely not the case. But this is a legitimate criticism that I think is totally reasonable to have and hold
Okay.
against
Yeah.
Palworld. I too
Fair
would
enough.
like if their designs were a little bit more unique, for sure. That is one of my complaints about the game. Does it ruin my enjoyment of it? Absolutely not. It definitely doesn't. Is it a bit of a blemish on it? For sure. But now let's get into the ones that I think have absolutely no merit whatsoever. One of the major things people were saying day one with Palworld is that it's just an asset flip. This was a perspective shared
Mm.
by many that decided not to turn their brain on for the day, and they went viral with people pumping their fists like, yeah, it is an asset flip. This was a big one saying that it was creatively bankrupt and poorly
Mm.
put together asset flip of a game. This was another one saying that 10 years ago, an asset flip game like this would have been relentlessly ridiculed and also called it generative AI slop. We'll get into all the AI can of worms here in just
Oh
a
my
minute.
god.
But let's start with this asset flip component. Now, in the first tweet, calling it creatively bankrupt, that's totally fine to say that. Like I said, there are a lot of designs that are very clearly borrowed from Pokemon, but overall, the product is not creatively bankrupt. I haven't seen a
No.
Pokemon with guns style game that has survival elements that are blended together pretty well with a really large world with quite a lot to do in it. Granted, a lot of
Nope.
times, a lot of the biomes of the world are super barren and empty. But overall, I'd say that I haven't really seen any other games like Palworld, so I definitely wouldn't call it creatively bankrupt, but maybe he's playing some real heaters behind the scenes that aren't released yet. But anyway, calling it an asset flip, I think is some absolute smooth brain nonsense. Either you don't know what an asset flip game is, or you're just baiting engagement through being incendiary for the sake of some numbers on your tweets. There's just no way anyone genuinely thinks that about this game. I am a connoisseur of asset flips. If you watch my streams, you know I do something
Mm-hmm.
called Bad Game Night, where I'll go through Steam's new releases and play games that nobody has ever heard of, looking for the stinkiest, most foul abominations game engines are capable of pumping out, and most of those
Yep.
games are legitimate asset flips. What it means is the game is composed entirely of store bought assets, and everything is just jumbled together into an absolute mess that kind of works. Usually, what it is some kind of open world zombie horde shooter. That's your most notable culprit, your most common offender of being an asset
Yeah,
flip. It
right.
just takes things from the Unreal Engine store, it takes the guns, the character, sets you in there, and you just randomly shoot zombies and other assets that charge at you, and that's the whole game. That's a
Right.
fucking
Makes
asset flip,
sense.
and there's varying degrees of it, but that's your most egregious example. Palworld should not even be in the same sentence as asset flip. Does it use assets? Absolutely. You know what else does? Everything else. Every other game in
Mm-hmm.
existence uses assets to different degrees. Palworld is no exception there. There is clearly assets there, but it's not the bulk of the game. It's not entirely composed of it or anything like that. They're used in their product the same way they are in every other major release.
Exactly right. Like I forgot what game he was talking about before, but another game was trying to sue a game for using general Steam developer assets. Well, was it Steam developer or Unreal developer? It was general assets that anyone could use, and they tried to sue them for that. But it was general assets everyone uses, and generally everyone has. And again, yeah, everyone uses assets, whether they're unique or whether they're just general from whatever developer engine you're using. Everyone uses it. You could probably catch 10 games using the same goddamn. kill sound asset for some reason. They just did.
It's not a fucking asset flip. And if we're going to play ball with this idea, you know what would absolutely qualify as an asset flip to people that believe this for Palworld? Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker is another game that I absolutely love, and this was a video game industry darling for a little while, and Dark and Darker is almost entirely composed of Unreal Engine assets that they bought and put into their game. They openly state that much of the 3D graphics assets were purchased from the Unreal Marketplace, and there are tons of links to them in the store that they used in their game. It's a ton of assets they used in it. Significantly more than Palworld. Why did I not hear a whole bunch of hoopla about Dark and Darker being an asset flip? That's weird. It seems really selective to just choose Palworld for this. It doesn't make any sense. You clearly haven't played the game and were grasping at straws for something to shit on it for because it's popular, is how it seems. Because it is just, by no definitions, an asset flip. But now let's get into some of the other ones that have been very controversial. A big one is the claim that a lot of it was AI generative. Now, this is a real problem that I think the video game industry is going to be facing very soon, with AI being integrated into games in a way that's going to be extremely scary going forward, take a lot of jobs, and produce a lot of slop. I think that is absolutely right around the corner. But right now, there is no proof at all that AI was used in any way in Palworld. Right now, all that evidence is based off the developer, as well as a couple of statements I believe the CEO made, in a previous project. There's a PC Gamer article going over this as well that talks about how this AI claim is right now just based off of hunches. There's a ton of people playing Super Sleuth right now and investigating whether or not AI was used, and at the moment there's no substantiated evidence to back up any claims that AI was used in this project at all. Now, if it does come out that AI was used in this game, that will certainly change my impression of it. I am not looking forward to the future where AI is replacing real human ingenuity in entertainment. I am very much dreading that. It's extremely concerning to imagine that future where all of your entertainment is just part of an algorithm that the AI knows that you're going to enjoy and clap and spit up at. So, if it does come out that Palworld used AI in a big capacity during its development, obviously that's going to change how I feel about the game, 100%. But right now, again, there is no proof of AI being used here, and yet some people are singing it like it's the gospel and 100% confirmed and true, based off nothing. Which is basically Twitter in a nutshell, to be honest. Now let's get to one that I actually found to be the most interesting at the time. There was a Twitter thread that came out talking about how the models are exactly the same in Palworld to some of the Pokemon counterparts, basically insinuating that they kind of just took the models and tweaked them slightly but kept everything else intact. That they copied the models and made exact replicas. Which would be a big deal. If they took that and copied it for their game, that would probably open them up to a huge lawsuit from Nintendo, because that is literally just stealing their work. But then this morning, it turns out that the person that was posting all the threads going over, like, how the models are the exact same meshes and everything, was a bunch of hooey. It was a load of dirty barnacles. It turns out they were actually doing, like, some dubious scaling in order to make them fit, so it wasn't exact meshes or copies or anything like that. And they even openly admitted that they feel regretful for calling it exact and this and that. And then they posted a pin tweet saying this. I am doing this because I think it's disgusting how much Palworld glorifies animal abuse. What in tarnation? What the hell is even that? That is a load of poop with some fart on it. You're doing this because Palworld glorifies animal abuse. It's a video game. Someone also pointed out that Pokemon is literally sanitized cockfighting, which it is. I mean, you're making the animals fight each other, and they respond saying, I think that's bad too. So then where is this energy for Pokemon? Like, it doesn't compute. I can't tell if they're just trolling or not, but they have so many threads about how Palworld copied the exact meshes and, insinuating that there's so much foul play there. It feels weird if it'd be satirical, because you went through so much effort to, like, take down Palworld with these claims, or like, attempt to. It's so odd. It's a video game. It's not real. There's no animal abuse, and it's not promoting it. No kid's gonna play Palworld and go out, find some kind of exotic animal, and make it work in the mines. Like, that's not going to happen. It's what is happening? What's going on here? So anyway.
See, and here's the problem. If that does happen, then the parents are at fault for letting the kid go through with that. Because how the fuck are you letting your kid put an animal to work in the mines without you fucking knowing?
The claims about the meshes being exact aren't true. However, I wanted to do more digging because even if you just look at it with the old eyeball test, the meshes of the models in Palworld are super, super similar to the Pokemon ones. The shapes are the same. A lot of the placement of certain appendages and stuff is in the same location. So I did a little sleuthing of my own here, did a little digging around, and I found a YouTuber named GoGo who was a technical animator and gave their perspective on this and talked about why the similarities in the meshes matters. Now, there are differences between them, obviously, like the topology of it is very different from Palworld to Pokemon, but the general shape remains mostly the same, and some of the locations of certain appendages on other models is similar to the Pokemon one or in the same location. And Gogo explains how this helps with animation. If you're looking to take an animation and bring it over to something else, because the shape stays the same, it makes it simpler and quicker. Now, I want to be clear, Gogo's not pointing the finger here, trying to accuse Palworld of doing anything wrong, and in fact even mentions that Nintendo could easily sue and they'd already have all of the evidence. They probably would have already sued if this was the case, if Palworld developers were just taking their models and porting the animations over or something. Nintendo would have likely already taken action because the evidence is just right there at your fingertips. It's pretty quick to access. So Gogo's just giving their perspective as an industry veteran here, that these shapes do matter, and since they're so similar, it does open the door to speculation on whether or not the Palworld developers copy and pasted things like the animation or something of that effect. It just leads to speculation on whether or not they're being truthful about creating from scratch. Again, GoGo isn't making any accusations against them, just stating that the shapes are important, even if it's not like exact one-to-one meshes. Just having the shapes be in like the exact same order and same placement is still a big deal in the profession, according to GoGo. Of course, I'm not in the industry, so I don't know, but still pretty interesting nonetheless. And another thing GoGo mentions that I want to mention is that a lot of people have brought up the fact that a lot of Pokemon are based on real-world animals, and thus a lot of the
Shit.
pals in Palworld are based on animals. There's only so many ways of conveying a
Again, no
snake,
shit.
or a lamb, or a stingray. Like, the shapes there are going to be pretty closely resembling each other, I imagine, because at its core, it's still this real-life animal that we know. So, like, a snake is going to look cylindrical and long across, right? So that could be an explanation for it, but since it is still so close, it does just have that level of speculation to it. Though I do think that argument could also work for shooters as well. So, like, there's only so many ways of conveying a
Right.
certain gun, right? So I bet if you broke down the mesh and model of a lot of guns, comparing Call of Duty guns to Battlefield guns to any other FPS guns, you'd probably find the meshes look pretty similar there too. And I don't think that indicates that they're just copy and pasting the same shit. But again, I'm not knowledgeable enough on this area to really speak on it with any real authority. I'm just giving my perspective on it. I do agree that there's only so many ways of conveying like a snake and shit, but it's really odd how there are very similar elements shared in the mesh to Pokemon counterparts that aren't normally there on a snake. But anyway, there's still no concrete proof that Palworld developers took these meshes and are just copy and pasting this shit behind the scenes. So these were all the main controversial talking points used to shit on Palworld and say that we shouldn't be
Okay.
encouraging it. This game doesn't deserve its success,
The
this and that.
main ones.
And I understand like some people being put off by it being too derivative. That's understandable. But a lot of the other things like AI, there's no proof of it even being used in Palworld, and yet it's being used as this gotcha for why Palworld's the ultimate evil. Shit like that, I just think is reaching for controversy or calling it like an asset flip. There's plenty of things to not like about the game. As I said, it's so far from perfect, but it's still super fun and significantly better than anything Game Freak has put out in a long, long time. So I personally am not super bothered by some of the designs being extremely derivative. I hope they don't go that direction in the future. It seems like they're actually going to be updating this game. They just released a roadmap already, and it's been less than a week, so they're already looking to keep updating the game and improving it. So I'm excited to see where it'll be by the end of the year if they keep up that energy, because I do think there's so much potential here, and it is showing that there is a lot of potential, a lot of juice left here in the Pokemon idea, the concept of
Yep,
creature catching,
for
monster
sure.
taming. So I've been really enjoying it. If there is big revelations about AI being used, or if it turns out that they have been copy and pasting Pokemon shit behind the scenes, obviously that would change my perception of it quite a bit. But as of right now, there's still no proof of any of that. But yeah, anyway, that's my full thoughts on the whole Pal World drama. That's about it. See ya.
All right, man. Well, I mean, what else did you expect? What else could you expect from it? I'm surprised. Like, here's the thing: if PETA hasn't jumped on it, if PETA hasn't jumped on it, you're good. That's what I'm. That's I guess what I'm trying to say
Concept
about
of
it.
creature cat.
About it. If PETA hasn't jumped on it, we're good. Okay. But anyway, that was the video. So make sure to like, subscribe, notifications, follow, and check out TFT channel. And of course, go support this original video and drop a like. And with that being said, with Godspeed, see ya.